Today, we're building this Suntour Superbe Tech derailleur. It's one of the goofiest derailleurs ever. Look how fun it moves. Look at that. These are super rare, so if you have one, cool. If you don't, stick along, and yeah, let's go. This pulley is the only normal part of this whole derailleur. Everything else is pretty much just wacky, so let's go. Some tools you're gonna need are some Allen keys, a screwdriver, a pick, some pliers, and a 10mm wrench. All right, now to take off this pulley, first thing we're gonna do is pull back the cage and unscrew that little pin right there. Now it's sprung back, and this is much easier to service. Now grab your 10mm and unscrew this little nut. You should hopefully have this little wedge in here. If you don't, that's fine, but if you do, grab some pliers or a pick and kind of just pull it out. You can also nudge it from the side and kind of lift it up. Kind of like that. All right, once you unscrew the nut, this top part just pops out, and then this should just come apart. All right, and now this little screw, you can take that out before you take the nut off. Mine got stripped really bad because it was super tight. Doesn't matter, just make sure it could spring out when you do this. All you have to do is just pop it out. You really don't have to take out the screw. If it's stripped, just kind of leave it there, and yeah. It's meant to keep this in place, this little spot, that's where it lines up with. All right, and now take off your pulley. There's also a washer right here, or it could be on the cage as well. All right, and now for the binnacle, similar thing to this, just on a smaller scale. Unscrew it, screw the bolt, and then you want to grab your seal. And for the little wedge, just pop it out like this with the pick, and then grab your pliers and pull it out. And now wiggle this around and it should spring right off. Right, now for the pinnacle, pretty simple. You can just grab some pliers and twist it off like this. If it's tight or if it's loose like this, you can just grab a pick and pull and screw it off. Right, now it's finally time for the parallelogram. Some people told me this was very hard to take apart and put back together, so let's do it. Oh. All right, there you go. Now it's all taken apart. Hopefully we can get it back together. I'm just surprised the seal is still alive somehow. So yeah. All right, now everything is finally taken apart and it's time to clean. For this, I like to use some cleaner or degreaser. You can use alcohol, brake cleaner, acetone, and if there's any rust, you can use some vinegar or you can use some aluminum foil and water. Make sure you don't lose your wedges. I put mine in this little magnetic tray. In my case, I'm using this ultrasonic cleaner, and all I'm using is water and dish soap. All right, now everything's all nice and cleaned down. Finally, after over 3 rounds of ultrasonic cleaning, it's all good. And for the chrome, there's a lot of chrome stuff here. I use some of this Quick Glow wax. And I'm gonna be mostly using this Saran butter grease and some of this Park Tool grease. All right, and now before you put it together, you wanna make sure you grease things up nice and good. First of all, for this part, you wanna grease up this whole bottom area right here. You want this whole bottom area greased up, behind here as well, and right here where the spring is going to go, just this whole area. And then the pivot point itself, you can put some oil in between this part right here and this spring retainer thing. All right, and now onto the other part. You want to make sure you grease up things nice and good, because you don't want to put it together and be like, oh no, it's rubbing, because then you have to take it apart. And these are very, very difficult to put together. So you want to get this whole bottom part full of grease. I know you can't see it because it's Saran butter. Then you want 2 of your little washers right here. You want some grease up here, might rub against that, grease on the inside, and then you can just pop this bolt out, put some grease on there, and grease on here. Again, 2 more washers right here. Put some grease on them to kind of keep them sitting on there so they don't fall off while you're trying to finagle this on. And more grease right here and in that little pocket. And again, more oil right here if you want. Okay, so now for the washers, I found out a better way. Since there's 6 of them, you want to put 3 right here on this bolt. And since it's going to be easier for the other bolt, just grab your other bolt, make sure you grease it up, and put the other 3 washers here, just 3 and 3. And now you want to position the spring like this, and make sure everything's all nice and greased up. Position it just like this. And now you want to put it on like this in this position. And essentially, the bolt is not going to go all the way in when you're going to put it on, because it has to screw into the hole. So grab it, put it on, make sure the washers don't slip off. And you want to make sure this part is, this little tab here is past that, so you'll be able to reach. Make sure your gasket is on there. Forgot to mention that. And yeah, put it on. Push it down, and it should pop in like this. Now you want the little, see that little spring? You want it to engage with that. So you want to pull this back a little bit and try that to engage with it like this. And then you just fiddle around with it and try to get it to engage. It's very difficult, but I hope you get it. All right, so after fiddling with it for a long time, you're gonna want to. This is how it should look before you screw it in together. It should look like this. It should be out a little bit. That's fine. And this bolt should be out all the way. That's totally normal. Now just get it and screw it in. Make sure you don't strip it. Just screw it in slowly. Hopefully it engages and I don't have to take this apart again. And some tips: just be patient. You want this facing down like this while you're trying to position the spring. Looks like it's going in. Let's go. All right, now the second bolt, make sure you got all your washers on there, 3 washers. Make sure you grease it up and screw it on. And also for the gasket, it's going to get in the way. I recommend putting some grease on the bottom of it just to help it, grease or Vaseline, just to help it stick to the bottom of this little lower part. Okay, now let's see if it moves smoothly. Yes, it does. All right, so finally some tips to get this thing together. First of all, grease. Whatever I put, grease was enough because it moves very smoothly now. I'm really glad with how it turned out. Second of all, expect your hands to be greasy. Expect everything to be greasy because there's just grease everywhere on this thing. Yeah, so that's why I didn't polish it first. And second of all, when you're putting in the spring, you want to put it like halfway in, and then you want to twist it a little bit, and then you want to push in this part, because it's going to just be easier for that big spring retainer thing. It's going to get in the way. So yeah, halfway in, then put tension on it, then push it all the way in. And for the gasket, make sure to put some grease or Vaseline on this part, on the lower part, and then put it on. You're going to keep it from popping off because it always likes to slide off and stuff. And then finally for the spring right here, to get it to engage with the pinnacle part, you're going to have to pull the pinnacle back a tiny bit just to get it to engage. And once you pop it all in, it should stay. But I would just keep tension on it just in case, and then screw in this bolt first, and then you got this one. So yeah, best of luck if you have one of these. And now for the parallelogram, you want to make sure the bolts are snug and not too tight. You don't want to strip them, that's for sure. All right, and now moving on to the pulley. We're going to do this lower spring thing. You want to grease this up. You want to get it in between the fins. You want to get that nice and good. Now you want to grease up this area with some lighter grease. I used Saran butter. You can use something like Buzzies, honey, or even oil. You can use oil. You want to grease it up, that surface. If it's rusty, you can sand it down. You want to get it as smooth and clean as possible. Same thing, you also want to get it on this bottom surface here because it rubs against that. Then you want to get some on here. You want to make sure your bolt is screwed in and get that all nice and greased up. And remember, there's also a washer. All right, you want to make sure the washer goes all the way down like this. There's 2 washers that look very similar to each other, and you want to make sure you get the right one. Then you want to make sure the screw is screwed in. Of course, mine is stripped, so it's still there. Now you want to grab your pulley, rotate it on, make sure this is super duper clean. And there's also a groove in there. You want to get a pick and clean inside of that. Get it nice and clean. Make sure there's no dirt, no rough, no dust even. And rotate it on like this. Make sure it spins nice and smooth. And then you want to grease up this area right here, this little ridge, and then you want to put on your washer. You want to put some grease on top of that as well, just a little bit. All right, so now once you got everything greased up, now it's time to put the two together. And there's two spots where you can put it together. Obviously, is this spot, and then all the way 180 over here. If you put it in this spot, you'll either have very little tension, because this screw stops it from going right here, or you'll have to rotate it 360 all the way around and have super high tension. So I like to go in between those two and go like this, which means you'll have to rotate it counterclockwise 180 degrees. You'll have decent tension. Sometimes they come with like that stock with 360 all the way around tension, but I think that's too much, so I'm just gonna do 180. It's supposed to be like this, just letting you look. And if it doesn't go down, you want to make sure the spring goes all the way down to the slot. Just kind of help it, nudge it in there. And now this cage should be still a little bit loose on here. You see that little pin stopper? That's supposed to go into the slot right there. See that slot? So you want to turn it counterclockwise 180 degrees until it reaches that spot. And then you want to push the two together once it reaches there. You just kind of look. Once it reaches it, push the two together. See right there? Now it's locked in. Now we're good. See? I'm not even holding it, and it stays. And now you want to grab your wedge, put that on. All right. Now once you got it on, you want to put on your middle part like this. And grab your little plastic thing. Should go in like this. And then you want to put some grease on this little area right here. And then there's a washer that goes on right there. And you want to use your wedge if you have one. And now for the wedge, it's hard to see on camera, but one side, one end, this end right here, is more sharp. And you want that to go in first. And there's the side that's flared out. You want that to go in last. Just like this. And grab it and push it in. Make sure it's all greased up where the washer is. What the wedge does is it prevents these two jaws from closing in on each other, and that causes the bolt to strip. So yeah. All right, now once you got your wedge on just like that, you want to grease up that washer and put on your nut. And you want to tighten it just snug. All right, and now for the B-knuckle, pretty much same story. You want to get this all nice and greased up. You want to get this edge right here on the plastic bit, because the plastic bit doesn't rotate. You want to get this edge right here greased up, because it's going to ride on there. And then you want to grab it, and there's two positions. There's one position is like this, where you'd have to turn it all the way around 360, which is going to put a lot of tension on the spring. Like this, you have to turn it counterclockwise all the way around 360, which I don't want to do. It's going to put a lot of strain on the derailleur. That's how it came, but I think these are going to get a lot of use, a lot of serious heavy use. So I'm going to go with the 180 option like this. I'm just going to turn it all the way around right here and screw in the pin in between this jaw and that one right there. All right, and now you want to put on your little plastic part. You want to grease it up before. Put on your little plastic bushing thing, and then you want to grab your other bolts, and there's usually a washer there, but I just used mine here. I guess the other one got lost, so I guess it either got lost or didn't come with it. So now again, the wedge goes in just like this with the sharp end in, and the flare side facing out. And now screw on your nut, and you want to screw it on just about all the way. And now rotate your cage about 180 all the way around counterclockwise, and then screw in your pin before it reaches this part right here. And now you want to make sure this bolt right here is snug, and you want to make sure it moves nice and smooth, and so does the pulley. There you go. Now finally all the wacky stuff is out of the way, and yeah, time for the pinochle. Just grease up some of this, put some grease on the inside of there, slide the two together, and then there's just 3 washers that go behind here. Put some grease on there, and then screw on your little nut, whatever it is, retainer. There you go. And now for the pulley, you want to just put some light grease on the inside of there, inside of the plastic part, not too much. Then grab your steel bushing, rotate it on, put some grease on the inside of that, and grab your 2 seals and screw on your pulley. And then you want to put some grease on your bolt as well and screw it in. Now you want to tighten it snug and make sure it spins nice and smooth. Now you want to put it on your clamp bolt, and now you finally have yourself a fully rebuilt Superbe tech derailleur. Can't believe I finally did it. Now it's good for another 5 years. This was easily the most difficult derailleur rebuild I've ever done. If you have one of these, I hope you found this video useful. Good luck with your rebuild if you didn't. Hope you found this interesting or entertaining. I know these are very rare. There's not much information about these, and I think there's also a version without like the big pulley. So if you have one of those, it might be better. So yeah, thank you to everyone who's been subscribed. We're almost at 500, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.